one.
How do we know it was just like
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? And welcome again to Spiritual Insight. Who created the one? That's a very good question. And so this was from Anton Daniels After Dark. You know, all type of conversations about God and spiritual things intrigue me. So we're going to get into this conversation and see what we can glean from it as followers of Christ so that we might be better able and equipped to answer some of these questions if we find ourselves in these situations and circumstances.
That's something different. And what
No,
I
it's
the
not.
reason no what y'all are now asking is a different question from what you were just saying. I'm saying those are two different things. And again, the reason that I was just bringing that up, whether you believe in God or not, was really just to help you to understand that there are things that happen in your existence that is beyond human level. And if you can't at least acknowledge that, then I believe you're being disingenuous about creation. And then if you do acknowledge that, then you have to be willing to say there's something bigger than me. There's something bigger than me and you and you and you, because we're sitting here and this heart just beats for years and years and years.
That's how the body works.
I can breathe it.
That's how the body works.
Okay, that's fine. But somebody had to create the body.
Who created the creator?
There's the creation and there's the creator.
Okay, this is a matrix.
It's not Molly. I get it.
We're living in a simulation, y'all.
I get it. I was at that space too. When you're not a believer, you can look at all these different aspects. I get it.
Carrie, you got to be a believer because you don't have an answer.
And one thing I just want to interject right here is unbelievers and those who are atheists have zero answers. They can answer none of the mysteries. They have zero answers to the questions that have dogged man since creation, since life began on this planet. But they love to try to bombard believers with nothing but questions while having zero capacity or zero ability to give you one substantive answer as it pertains to the things that we deal with in life. Whereas in the Bible and through Christianity, we have answers for everything. We know where we came from, where we're going. We know why death exists. We know why sin exists. We understand why evil is in the world. There is not a question to life that is not answered in the Bible. But I'm just telling you, it's very interesting that those who continue to ask the questions have zero answers whatsoever. And they demand answers from you. And no matter what answer you give these individuals, it won't suffice because they have no desire to believe or receive your answer. They're just trying to overthrow and subvert your faith. That is the purpose and nature of the questions. It is to infuse you with doubt. Now, there are people who do have sincere questions, and they're desiring to see whether or not you can provide substantive answers.
Hey, that is where the faith component comes in.
No, there's never ever been a test you can take and you put a fucking question mark there for the answer and get credit for it. When you telling me to have, no. Y'all telling me to have faith for shit that y'all can't giving me the answer to.
I'm not telling you to have faith. I'm not telling you.
Evidence of things not seen.
I'm not telling you to have
So
anything.
you give me faith to run with.
2K. Listen, I'm not trying to push anything on you. You said You don't have the answer. I'm telling you, for Carrie, that is where faith comes into play. That is where acceptance that there is something much bigger and greater than me comes into play. And then I do my research and I work backwards. And that's how I landed on Christianity, Jesus, the Bible. All of that lines up for me. That's the walk.
And I'm telling you, you need the faith, because there's no answer and there ain't nothing you can study to come up with these answers. So you rely on something like faith with no answer. You let that be your blanket answer that covers everything.
No, see, this is the thing. This is the thing. Anytime you give people who don't want to believe, anytime you give them the answer, it's never going to be good enough.
That's not true.
Wait. Like, I just sat here and can I speak?
It is true.
No, because anytime you give them a reasoning, a rationale, it's never going to be good enough. They're going to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. It never stops. So it's almost damn near pointless, because you've already gotten your mind made up, and no matter what somebody says, they can never prove to you anything, because you're actually not even open to really hearing it for real.
Let me just interject here, because it was never God's intent that man had to prove him. He's already proven himself. And so these individuals that try to give believers, those of us who have common sense, that know that all of this complexity and man being made the way that he is and having everything that he needs to sustain life and everything that he needs to reproduce life and continue life, we all understand that an intelligent design demands an intelligent designer. And so God never intended for us to have to prove him. He's already proven himself. That's why I love what the brother said when he said that people who have chosen to not believe, you will never give them an answer that is satisfactory, because they have surrendered to darkness instead of light. Those of us who believe have submitted and surrendered to light instead of darkness. See, we have a choice, and we've always had a choice. And so it's not our responsibility to prove what is self-evident. It is self-evident that we have a creator. The question is there enough revelation? Is there enough data to understand who this creator is? And I would submit to you that yes, we have information to confirm that.
That's why
I'm having this conversation. Listen, that's stupid.
No, because you're saying that faith is non-existent. So then there's no point to talking anymore.
Listen, you can have as much faith as you want to. Faith isn't the answer. That's what I'm telling you. You have gave me no answer.
How is faith not an answer?
If you say 2 + 2 equals faith, I'll look at you stupid.
Okay, so faith is always an answer, and I'm gonna tell you how. Wait. So if faith is not an answer,
let me also interject, because you got to understand the nature of faith. Because faith, from a biblical standpoint, is not just something that you should appropriate anywhere. And I'm going to give you my family life as an example. My wife has faith in me that I'm going to pay the bills, I'm going to take care of business, I'm going to do the things that I'm supposed to do. Why does she have that type of faith in me? Because of relationship. And we've been married for over 20 years. And because she's seen this level of consistency and she's seen me do these things over and over again. And so she has faith in me. And so her faith is built upon the relationship and the experience that we have. And faith in God is the same. It's built upon relationship and an experience with God. But those who don't have a relationship with God can't relate to the faith that operates in the lives of those that do. And so they just denounce it as non-existent because it's something that they don't have and they can't relate to it. But just because you don't have something and you don't relate to it doesn't mean it's non-existent. Now, you can say it is, but it still doesn't change the fact. And a lot of people that don't believe in God think that God is going to conform to their expectations of who it is he's supposed to be. And God, if you don't do this the way that I want you to do it, or if you don't reveal yourself in the way that I want you to reveal yourself, then you don't exist. When they don't understand that God sets the rules, and if we relate to him in the way that he has ordained and chosen for us to relate to him, then we'll see the manifestation, we'll see the revelation, and we'll see the progression. All right, I want to go over just a couple passages of scripture, and then I'll be done with this particular topic. But I'm going to Exodus chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. And then Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And that particular phrase, I am who I am, literally means I am the eternal existent one. I am self-existent. That is the revelation that God gave to Moses about himself. When Moses said, tell me what your name is, God said, I am who I am. That would be akin to what we would say, I'm like that. I'm him. God was the first one to use that phrase, I'm him. And he's the only one who that phrase literally perfectly fits. God is him. I am that I am. I am the eternally existent one. Nobody made me. And when someone is great and as awesome as God is, gives you this revelation of himself, you take his word for what it is because he's God. He is who he says he is. And he has given us this revelation that he is the eternal existent one and that nobody created him. It says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. And so the Bible is telling us that there are people that are suppressing the truth. God has released truth in the earth, but because of the corruption of certain people's hearts, they're suppressing the truth. They're opposing the truth. They're trying to stop the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fool. And that's what happens when you reject the light of God as the creator. Your foolish heart becomes darkened. See, in order to receive more light from God, you got to respond to the light that he's given. And people are rejecting light and then asking as if, they're desiring more light, and they're asking more and more questions when they're not responding appropriately to the light and the revelation that God has already given them. That's why Jesus said, he that is unfaithful in that which is least is also unfaithful in that which is much. I'm not giving you $200 and you can't properly manage $20. You got to show me you're faithful with the little, and then I can give you increase. Then I can give you progress. And that's what's happening with a lot of individuals, and why they're not enjoying all of the revelational truth that God has released in the earth, is because they're not responding to the light that God has already released. If you respond to the measure of light that God has already released unto you in creation, then God can add more revelational truth to your life. But if you reject what God has revealed, God's not going to give you more. And you're not adequately stewarding the little that he's already tried to give you. And that's all I had on this particular topic. Continue to grow in your faith, brothers and sisters in Christ. Excel in the things of the Lord. Like, subscribe, send me a comment in the comment section. Until next time, God bless.